Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another woo-hoo, live Q&A today. Yeah, thanks for some of y'all who are already here, beating me to the punch, which is Islam. Nice to see you. Hopefully, y'all can hear me okay. And just let me know in the comments whether we're good to go. We are starting right at 6:30, so think about those questions that you wanna ask, but then also if you have any great tips, I don't know every single thing in the world, and I'm always looking to learn myself, so it's a what do we call it? A win-win scenario, and, Casey is in the comments as well. She's being my eyes on the LinkedIn platform. I'm using StreamYard, by the way. Some of y'all ask, "What are you using to go live?" And I find that, StreamYard's been very consistent, been using it for several years now, and I just really like the platform. And so this is Casey, totally, completely wonderful assistant, and brainiac, very smart person. So, introduce yourselves like she mentioned. So and always, like, trying to, see where everybody's at and what they're working on. So if you wanna mention that too, that will be great. Okay, so I'm just gonna test a couple of things. We have some banners. By the way, I'll go ahead and flash this, is that next week I am hosting a workshop. It is free and it will be on Zoom. That way I can see your faces, and if you have any questions about what I'm teaching, I can get those answered for you. But it's an AI productivity workshop. Things are always changing in the world of AI. And of course, there's some like latest and greatest tools that you can look into, and all these goodies that I have planned for that workshop. So, however, too, we created a really fun download. So I'm going to flash this here. Check this out, see if it's useful for you, but it's really great tips on how to use AI. Some people are super comfortable with AI, and other people are just like barely getting into it. So, um, check it out, download it, and let me know how it's working out for you. Perfect, perfect. Okay, so those are working just fine. And then once we get started, Casey will put up some questions, but if you have questions as well, this is a live Q&A just for you. A little bit of introduction about myself. I am in the business development and marketing strategy field. I also write books and do public speaking, and I had the privilege and honor to work on a project with legendary Les Brown. If you look up Les Brown, he has been around for many, many years, serving the public with his motivational speaking, and also has done like some really cool corporate training as well. And we are doing a book together. We had a really fun event in Atlanta. So I'm just getting back from out of town. And what a great experience, because we were signing books together, talking about life and how to expand into the dreams that we've set up for ourselves, but then also how to keep motivating others to pursue their vision and their dreams. And I'm really proud to be a part of that movement. We can all use encouragement from time to time. I know that for me, his words throughout the years have really resonated. So if you look at Les Brown, he has a lot of things that he's quoted on saying. I won't try because I might mess it up, but such a wonderful person. Did I bring my book here? Oh, yes, I did. So this is my copy. And then we have books coming that woo, 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 you can check out. So this is our signing copy, and it's so cool because the other people on the project were signing my copy. So I tell people this is going to be worth like $1 billion. So what I'm holding in my hand, worth a lot of money because of all the beautiful talent that's in it. And then I'm right there. You see? So there's my face. And then the alternative covers that we're getting done has me and Les on there. So very, very cool project. One, it's to tie us all in to this beautiful community of other movers and shakers, but people who are really dedicated in giving people that uplift and that beautiful example on how to really create a life that they love and to make authentic choices and also to share that experience with other people. So super, super proud of being in the project. So yeah, really cool. I can't wait to read the whole entire thing. Also, speaking of collaborating, if anyone's interested, let me put the date here. I'm hosting a mastermind in DC. So, DC, Washington, DC. If anyone's in the area or would like to come by, we've had other wonderful masterminds and retreats, several countries and states represented. So it's not just for local people. If you want to save the date and inquire more about it, I will be posting more information so that if you are feeling compelled to join us, it's going to be a fantastic time. We're going to do some really deep dives into our business plans and also exploring new ways to get out there and showcase yourself and what you do, and then we're going to have a little bit of fun. We're going to take a tour around DC. We have a private bus that's going to be taking us around town, networking opportunities as well. And for the first leg of it, we're just going to be one block away from the White House at the Willard. So, very exciting itinerary. And if you're interested in that, keep in touch, let me know. But also, I'll be sharing more information about that as things get solidified, and which will be very, very, very soon. So, okay. I think we're right about at that time. About 4 more minutes to go. So, I know Casey may be messaging some people, but if you wanna go ahead, if you're on here, I'd love for you to introduce yourself. Put your put it in the comments, because one thing that we're doing is repurposing this from LinkedIn. We're gonna post it on social media and Facebook and also on YouTube. So I'd really love to see you in the comments, and we'll do our best to make sure that you're tagged as well. So if you're on YouTube, and also if we just find your page or if you pasted it in the comments, we'll put it in the show notes in the YouTube. That way you get some great algorithms out of it as well. So think of it as your time to shine too, and want to see you out there and start sharing what you do and the things that we could possibly collaborate on together. Big shout out to Lisa, who was on this call on our training Q&A, not training. Sorry, I just did a training earlier. So on our live Q&A, we got to speak and connect off of LinkedIn, and turns out she was local to me as well. So that's pretty fun, meeting somebody online that I hadn't met yet in person. So that is super fun. Okay, so let's see, 2 minutes, but Casey, do you want to go ahead and prompt the first question? That way I can go ahead and start moving through my brain about different answers. And if you all have any questions, this is a live Q&A. I'm here to kind of give you new perspectives, different ideas, maybe things that you are a little bit confused about and need clarity for. It could be any general business question, marketing, or if you're a nonprofit, ways to get creative and fundraise for that. Okay, so part of what I'm seeing across the board is that things are going to shift into the next year. So this year was a little tough all around for some people because of it being an election year. If you were doing any ad spend, that was kind of really high at the moment because of all the different algorithms that was focused around elections. And so you might see a difference in the marketing for the upcoming year just because we don't have that much of that distraction anymore. Hopefully, I don't know. But also people were really looking at what maybe the economy would respond to, and a lot of times people get more conservative when it comes to maybe the way they're spending money or saying yes to different opportunities, etc. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started. And the first question that Casey had posted, I feel like somewhat relates. So, what are some cost-effective ways to start a new business without much marketing knowledge? Okay, so I think starting a new business is always a brave thing to do, and sometimes you gotta bootstrap it. So bootstrapping means, just funding on your, own and really being mindful of how you're spending your money. And, Lisa says, "Hello." So that's shout out to Lisa, who I was talking to last week. So that's fantastic. So we can list a few things, and if anyone has I know Lisa oh my gosh, so think about this. Lisa is one of those math people, so she probably has her own things that she's gonna list out in the comments, and we'll share them as well. For me, I like to study things first before I make a move. Not to say that I drag on and overthink it, but I want to ask as many questions as I can prior to spending the money. I know that sometimes shiny things come our way and it sounds good, but you have to be careful because not everything is going to fit your type of business plan or even your budget to sustain it. Maybe the first few things that you'd want to start with is building that plan first. So if you can get a really great what do we call it? Like a business plan together, not just, hey, I'm typing up this business plan and I'm never going to look at it again. If you can get a strategist, so what I would do for a client, let's say, I would make sure that they know all different income streams that they could produce from that one concept because there's different things like sales cycles to think about, etc. And time is money. So if you can save time by not making mistakes that most people do when they're first starting up, then that to me is a cost effective way to set up a business. Lisa says, I suggest keep tweaking until things start to move. Don't spend money to buy business. Yeah, I think there's you have to be careful. There's a lot of places where you can just lose money inadvertently. I was speaking to someone earlier today and they were like, "Yeah, I've spent money on this and this and this and this." And I get it. It sounded like she could turn it around and get a return from those things. But what she found is that some people, when she, especially as a service, when she invested in that service, people didn't give the right return or didn't do what they said that they would do. And then now it's like I'm skittish to spend money again because I've been taken advantage of. So a lot of times people will sense your desperation, like the wrong people will sense that you're just green about all these things, and then they give you these explanations on why this, if you spend money with them, why that would work, etc. I've heard of people get a package deal that has website included, etc., only to have it hijacked later. Like people don't give you the rights to your own website because they set it up, etc. So you really got to do your due diligence before you start spending the money and get lots of references, especially if it's a service type thing. Uh, if it's software, you definitely need it. So one good cost-effective platform that I feel is a very strong one, and maybe Lisa and Casey or Islam has something that they want to share, but Canva. Canva, I feel like if people don't have Canva, it's like all of these platforms set into one. And if you really look at the way Canva has entered the sphere, it really was to take over the Adobe suite. So a lot of in the past, we spent money on Adobe for creating videos, Photoshop, PDFs, etc. And those that suite would be like over $1,000 sometimes, unless you had like the teacher or educational version. But that was a very expensive platform. It was great for making visually stunning things, but it was very costly. Now with Canva, I think you can get Canva Pro for less than 200 a year for the year. That is wild to me. I remember some of y'all are older like me. You remember buying software in a box, right? You go to Best Buy, find that software, and then they would have an upgrade and you had to keep upgrading that software. And then you had to like make sure that your Windows was compatible to it. It was such a big mess. So now you got a lot more online platforms that you just access. And I really love that you don't have to spend as much money as we used to put in that disk to start loading up that software so we can use it. Lisa says, yes to Canva. Man, Canva, if you haven't been using it or hiring a person who uses it, missing out. And it also has AI integrated in some of those things. So, uh, here's what some of my wonderful people are using it for. So I have a networking group that I've invited Lisa to that happens in my area on Wednesdays. And our social media person that's part of our team, what she does is she gets all these wonderful clips, photos, and videos during the meeting. The meeting's only 55 minutes long. Then right after, she sits there and completes it by using Canva. So she uploads the clips and things that she made in Canva. She goes to that bottom left-hand corner to click that AI tool, and it puts it together and automatically adds captions to the video, and then within a few minutes, she has it up on our LinkedIn and up on the Facebook. Crazy, like, in just minutes. Minutes, I tell you. So, AI productivity, I'm already giving you a little hint that you can use that and not overthink it because it's on to the next week, on to the next week, on to the next week. So who cares if it's like super perfect? But most of the time, it's hitting it so well that no need to edit and it looks very good. And if you go to my LinkedIn, you will definitely see me reshare what I'm talking about. So peek at that later and you can say, whoa, that's what Marilyn was talking about. She did it all in one click using that AI prompt in the, not even a prompt, it's just like boop, a button there that you push on Canva. And there it is, a really cool reel that you can either share on any platform, really. So that's pretty cool. Okay, Casey, next question. Or if someone has a question, and it could be a very creative question. I know or maybe you're thinking aloud for a client of yours. Maybe you're doing similar things to me and you hear this question all the time. And maybe you just want confirmation that we are all thinking on the same page. So that would be cool too. All right. So let's see what we have out there. And while that's loading up, I'm just going to put here from our title, Refine Strategic Blueprint. So a lot of the things that I'm building upon is through a program that I host, and we are always refining our strategies and coming up with like the best ways to really move forward in this business, especially as the market keeps changing. So many things to learn and get caught up on, and you don't have time to, do too much kicking the can. You have to just get out there. Okay, so let's see here. Seeing if Casey's putting up a new question real quick. Awesome. All right, so not yet, but hopefully the one that we answered was pretty good. I have a question for you guys. But first, Islam did post something, so let me see. All right, so do you use design thinking? Oh, a good question. In brainstorming marketing ideas. And how is it different from the conventional way of doing marketing to you? Okay, so I guess design thinking, my brain is already always into that mode. I'm a very visual person, but I also like the way some brands really express because they've looked at the bigger picture. And when you think about conventional ways of marketing, sometimes like people get too focused on, is my slogan correct? And they try to like spin off from these little tinier thoughts that may not fully tie in with like a bigger design type of vision. Okay. So when you think of design thinking, it's almost like if a designer was making a collection of clothing. So think about like theming for your whole entire business for maybe a season or the year. There's a progression in that style of thinking versus drilling down too much on one point, which you tend to see in the past. Because one, in the past, it was too expensive to change your mode of operation. Once you produced one commercial, it took so much effort and maybe months and months of time to progress through that one thought. So you had to limit yourself. There was a little bit of that constraint that nowadays we don't have that constraint. You can literally make a commercial yourself. You can change it up if you wanted to. So I think to not be so random with it because you have so much more freedom in design thinking, and especially when brainstorming, you're thinking of like, how does this interrelate and how can we really make people understand our brand? So when you're looking at these methods, it's more brand scope, maybe things that didn't used to align, making them align, like kind of surprising the public with ways that these ideas are coming together and these little nuances that people sometimes go, "Oh my gosh, that's brilliant. I didn't even think that, that would work." You're allowed to test things more. And when you're thinking of like car design, right? So there's some things that you test, like, is it going to be aerodynamic and still cool looking? And then how do we market that? Who are we gonna sell that product to? And does it appeal to our current audience, or do we have to start building a new one? So there's a lot more chained questions that we probably didn't have the luxury of asking before. And back to the first question that was asked about starting a business, this is actually pretty exciting that you have more fluidity in marketing and that you can do this different type of like brainstorming and really exploring the depths of creativity and your thoughts and things you want to try, they're valid. Try it. Like there's different ways to try it. As long as you're not doing costly things to try, take a risk, get feedback, refine, refine, refine. Like put it out there, then refine it. Before, the traditional way of marketing, conventional ways, was we had to do so much testing before we launched it. So if you were launching a movie or something like that, you would get a test audience, you would go to test markets to launch a new soda flavor, etc. Because it was so hard to change the marketing once you unleashed it. Now we can change it pretty quickly. You make a mistake on your copy, you can press edit, and then it's live again. So this is a great question. I'm glad you brought that up. And I want to make sure that people explore their creativity. And side note, if you look up the news article about Sotheby's auctioning off this piece of artwork that was a banana duct taped to a wall, um, the auction, someone bought the concept for $5.2 million. And it's a literal banana with a literal piece of duct tape, not a sculpture like someone made. They took a banana, stuck it to the wall, stuck it there with duct tape, and they auctioned it for $5.2 million. One, hopefully you understand that money is not real. Like there's so many things that are valued differently. A publicity stunt, maybe. I don't know. But that person who bought it said he was going to eat the banana. That's a very expensive banana, but you can sell anything these days. So I'm not sure if I really made a good point there, but just look that up because I think it's just a quirky thing that you got to consider in the world that we live in now. There are wild ideas that people are going for. Okay. So design thinking, brainstorm craziness, cool beans. Or let's just be creative and not overthink what we're doing from moment to moment. So was was it for $6.5 million? It was something crazy. I thought it was 5.2, but yeah, it's $6.5 million. Wild. And some tech guy bought it, I believe. So but that is amazing. So think about it. You could have a $5 million idea sitting on your counter. And unless you try, um, who knows, right? But yeah, side note there, just because that wowed me. That was really an impactful reading that I did today. So, Casey says, "What are the risks and rewards for taking out a loan to start a new business?" Okay, so loans are a thing that you really, really got to think about first. I one am not a financial advisor. And I don't know all like the ins and outs of like the different types of loans that are out there. I know that the SBA could be a good resource for some people. As far as risks and rewards, you really got to take that into consideration yourself because everybody's level of risk is different. And as far as rewards, I mean, you can't guarantee everything. So if I were you, person, whoever is asking, um, I would really think about ways to maybe do a capital fundraising instead of a loan. Capital fundraising is a way to kind of bring about cash flow. And most of the times, people who do that, like let's say you're a venture capitalist, or you have a thing that you want to take out to market and you want to first get investors. I think study that first because alone it's an option for sure, and especially if you believe in your idea and, if there's a bank or anybody else willing to, fund that for you. But there's something cool about learning how to bring other people on board to an idea. So if you have a cool concept, maybe you think about how to get investors or partners. There's some really cool things that you can do. And a lot of times now, you also got to think about the lifespan of the business and how much that would take for you to pay off a considerable loan versus raising the money. There's beautiful things you can look at like Kickstarter, even a GoFundMe. Sometimes people have great concepts. They just need a few little bits of assistance for. And there's also ways that you can do just like Kickstarter, where you can reward people for believing in your idea and getting it to launch. And then once you launch it, then that's when their funding is applied. So they're technically not losing anything until you get to that funding point, and then they pledge to fund you. Or you can also think about ways to really do something maybe different and on the side that you can say, I'm going to use this effort to fund this next effort. So I like a progressional way of thinking instead of this is my only option type of thinking. So in regards to loans, maybe there's other types of funding that you haven't considered yet that you can maybe make a list, interview people out there, say, how did you start your business? Did you have to take out a loan? What did you do? I know some people have been saving up. Some of my clients have retired. And so they knew that they wanted to approach a new type of business and they saved that money so that they can invest in themselves in the next step. So just things to think about, but good question nonetheless. All right, next question is, what are some unexpected ways to diversify revenue streams in a competitive market? Okay. So, just like we were saying, you can think about ways to create funding for your business. And when you say unexpected ways, I think right now the hot topic is AI. Can you figure out a way to use AI in the in the sphere that you're at? And maybe there's ways that you can develop either a prompting type of thing to test that concept out to selling. The one thing you really got to think about when you're creating different revenue streams is how quickly can you go from concept to transaction. And it's almost like you should be very well versed in the transactional point of the idea. So, do you already have a way to take payment for an idea that you have? If you don't have things like Stripe, maybe PayPal. I would prefer Stripe versus PayPal, but that's really a preference. Some people take other forms of payment, but let's say you have Stripe. Do you know how to make a payment link? Can you put that payment link into an invoice or a lead page or a sales page? That kind of thing is, to me, money right away because when you have a concept and you want to test it to see if anyone wants to buy, you're not spending a lot of time on the development part. Try to get to the transaction part as soon as you can. As far as like marketing it, etc., you definitely want to develop an idea, and you definitely want to make sure that what people are paying for, that you can deliver it. So I wouldn't sell anything that you don't already have a good handle on and that you can deliver 1,000%, because remember, your reputation is going to cost you more than any marketing you'll ever do. So you don't want to do something that's going to ruin that and that's going to have people, sorry, I'm getting tied up in my wire, have them like questioning whether they should do another transaction with you. So just think about that. And I think too, as far as unexpected ways, I mean, it would really depend on, like, what you've tried and what you haven't tried before, right? Unexpected is a different word, but maybe things that you have been once afraid just by your own limitation to sell, think about ways to push that out. So maybe it feels unexpected to yourself, but other people are expecting that to come from you. And maybe this is time and this confirmation that yes, you're worth that money and what your thoughts and your skill sets are worth a lot of in value. So maybe surprise yourself is going to be my best answer to that. Lisa put, I have been reading into this lately. The short answer is that you're prolonging a bad idea, meaning if you start with nothing except for your passion and it doesn't sell, you change, tweak the idea until it sells. When you take out a loan, you defer failure until the failure is much larger. Ooh, in my opinion. I like that little note, Lisa. Um, Beautiful. I love it. And if you're prolonging a bad idea. Yeah. And sometimes people are in the middle of that bad idea, meaning they need the loan to be the Hail Mary because the business concept hasn't worked. And then instead of changing either the business concept, the strategy, or anything else about the business, they just keep pumping more money into it. Totally a bad idea at that point. I'm sure that Lisa will agree with me on that. Yeah, because I like how you put nothing except for your passion and it doesn't sell well. Yeah. Look, you cannot sell your blood, sweat, and your tears. Maybe you can, but for the most part, people are like, "I'm not buying that. I got my own blood, sweat, and tears." Think about ways to create intellectual property and doing things that are well refined. You're gonna go through any awkward stage when you're building a business. It's just part of the deal. But let's not prolong the awkwardness and let's not throw more money at the awkwardness. Either you need somebody to help you fix what's wrong, um, or do a pivot. I know that was a huge thing word, and people are stopped using that word because they hated that word after pandemic because all they heard was pivot, pivot, pivot. That was a forced pivot for a lot of people. Just think back to that year, things that were working, like in-person things, but also just like, safety, whatnot, totally changed. And no amount of money would have helped at that point. You had to think of a new idea. You had to go back to the drawing table. Would rather people reassess, get the right help, contact Lisa, contact Marilyn, contact Casey. I mean, there's people that you can reach out to before you go that other pathway where you're really not coming up with anything new or novel. You're just kind of redoing stuff. So, part of what that other question and creating new revenue streams is, have you exhausted all your different thoughts before you go into that desperation mode, right? And that's where maybe if you're a solopreneur, you got to start getting involved with either masterminds or you're going to wonderful conventions or talks where these types of things are being addressed and you're getting ideas from those who've been there and done that. So, next question. Casey posted that what criteria must be met for a person to sell their ideas for profit? Okay, so just selling an idea, um, I don't think that the idea itself goes far unless it's been tested. Part of the thing that you're responsible for um, building a blueprint, building a concept, is that you've gone through like the different modes to test it. I think that people have a good idea of how something would work. And I'll give you an example. Maybe you've worked for a company and you say, I could do this so much better, right? And then you get out there and you have the idea to do it better. And then you quickly find out that your idea is not going to work because one, you didn't have the staff and all these other things that you didn't think about first. So an idea is only as good as the execution. And if you had a brilliant thought and then tried to execute it and it fell flat, you can't sell that idea. At least don't sell it to me because I don't want something that's never worked out. And there's been a prevalent abuse of selling ideas for the past lots of years where people have done things like, hey, I can help you make lots of money. And people buy into it and they don't make lots of money. And then the blame comes in. People go, "Well, you didn't do everything right. That's why you didn't make money." Maybe yes, maybe no, but then if you really look back on their history, well, how did you make money? "Oh, I was taught by so and so how to make money, so now I'm telling other people that this is the way to make money." Like, they didn't test the concept themselves, they were just taught how to sell it. So, I don't like those types of things. If you talk to my clients and people I've taught, they know that that's one of the things that really grate at me when people are selling things to people that aren't really grounded in experience or like true effort and true um testing, etc. Like, would you want to buy a plane that no one's flown before to test that it was working? I don't think so. And I remember a long time ago when I was in college, I had a really cool job in the entertainment department over at Kings Dominion in Virginia, where it's like a theme park. And they would have these new roller coasters. And then they would be like, hey, who wants to be the first to ride this roller coaster? And people are like, sign me up, sign me up. I was like, nope. I want that thing to have been running for at least a year and no one fall out of it. Like, that's always been my mindset. I probably take that same mindset into business where I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't mind being the first to somewhere because it's maybe layered on a progression of thought. Maybe it's like time to unleash a new idea because of the things that preempted that idea and that effort. But I think you got to be just be really careful whether you're the seller or whether you're the buyer, that ideas are only as good as how they're executed. So, good question. All right. So, yeah, hopefully that makes sense. And again, if you all have to add anything, and I don't mind going back because I know there's a little bit of a lag. So if there's something I said that spurred a really cool thought from you, also, Casey, interested to know like how many people do we have live? Because I want to see like who all's participating. Because I see Lisa. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Islam, for being here. Of course, like sharing some good thoughts and great questions. Okay, so Casey posted, what are the risks of changing a logo or rebranding? Okay, so changing a logo, I feel like that one's easy if you haven't spent a ton of money. One of the things that I see out there is that people will spend a lot of time and effort on a logo, and then, as their business is not going in the right direction, maybe, then they go, oh, maybe the logo. Maybe it's the logo, maybe it's not the logo. I guess it depends on what you sell. If it's a product and it's on the shelf, yeah, there's some design work that needs to be done on packaging or a book where it's gonna be able to grab that person's attention so they can go and grab it and then purchase it. But a lot of times, let's say you're on online business where maybe you're a personal brand, your face is your logo. I think your face is the strongest logo. You think about the Wendy's sign. What font is Wendy's? You probably don't know. But what face is on the Wendy's sign? That you know, okay? And you think about other brands, they will get a spokesperson or they will make, something representative of that brand, like the Taco Bell Chihuahua for a long time. So every time I saw a Chihuahua, I was thinking, "Te quiero Taco Bell." So that was very effective. You got the progressive lady and the Verizon guy, like people's faces are a great selling point. So if you're not sticking your face on different things, and if you notice my banners, how's my face? One, there could be lots of other Marilyns out there. Two, there could be a lot of people teaching that same workshop or doing that same thing. I want you to go, oh, I know her. Oh, that's the one that I remember. We remember faces better. So as far as logos, I mean, go with what your feedback is from your audience, etc. But as long as it's not too costly, then if you don't feel comfortable with the logo you're displaying, you're more than allowed to change it. As far as risks of rebranding, that's a whole different layer than just logo. Brand is how you do everything. what kind of culture you're building around that product or service. What types of things emote as um, kind of feelings or ways that people connect with the message. That is all the essence of branding. So, rebranding sounds to me extreme. What I tend to see is that people haven't thoroughly branded themselves or they haven't hit the right mark when it comes to authentically branding themselves. They're just either going with the flow, what other people are doing. I think it's good to ask yourself very deep questions like your unique selling proposition, your USP, maybe like the niche market you want to start with and then where you branch out. So it could be a targeting issue regarding your brand. So maybe it's not the brand, maybe it's the targeting that's a mismatch. So the risk is that maybe you're doing something impulsive to make changes that's not grounded in real strategy or theory. So that would be pretty risky, in my opinion, because then you're going back to the drawing board. You're leaving your audience for that period of time. And then they, in turn, will find other things to pay attention to, especially if you're missing off the market. So, one of the things that you can do is maybe explain maybe a new direction you're exploring. Keep us in the loop, make us feel like a part of this change that you're doing, whether it is the logo or something else. Explain it to us. We are in this time frame in culture where we appreciate transparency, but we also like to be along for the journey. So you could say, "Hey guys, I'm not sure if this is still working, and I'm not resonating with this. What do you all think? Do you think it'd be okay if I tried this or that?" It's healthy to get feedback, but especially from your audience. So that way you don't feel like you're alienating them. I think one of the risks that you can also experience is that people feel like you've changed, like your values are different now. Maybe you don't care about the people who have supported you and your growth throughout the years, and people take that personally. You might not have ever met the person who's reading your messages or commenting on your stuff. But if you completely disregard them, you're creating a disconnect. So just be careful with that because you got to nurture your audience just like if they're part of your garden, right? You got to know when to do the weeding, when to, water your plants and try to say like how do I make this part grow and be nurturing throughout. So I think that's the best thing is that you're always aware of what the audience needs versus maybe looking too introspective and not giving it the right kind of strategy before you make big changes. So, Casey said we had about 5 people. When I asked how many people, that's pretty fun. And also, if you need to step out, watch the replay later, totally cool. Because, like I said, we're going to be repurposing them, these things, so that we can spread the word on some fun ideas. Okay, so Casey says, how can I handle self doubt and imposter syndrome when trying to grow my brand? Okay. So a lot of times, if you're front and center of your brand, you may feel a little shy about that, and that's okay. Like you learn that. Um, the shout out to some of my wonderful clients out there. Was just speaking to uh, Becky Mossbrooker. If you look her up, she's a safety instructor here in this area. Another fantastic client, Janine McJanet, who's a hypnotherapist, and lots of other credentials. She's in Canada. And one of the things that we were talking about recently was the fact that in the beginning, it was like really shoving them to create content, to go live on their pages, live in their groups, and be out there. And some of the comments initially was like, well, people don't know who I am, or why would they listen to me? All of these self doubt things that tend to pop up. And one thing that you definitely will learn if you're consistent is that you bring that confidence to you. Like you pull in confidence because you're being brave and trying things. Again, not trying to be perfect. We're all kind of, just chuckling about like, yeah, remember that first live I did, or remember the first video I posted? It was awkward, or deep down inside that you were shaking, like your smile was shaky and you didn't feel like you were going to be articulate enough to do what you needed to do. But your brain and your body learns. Sometimes we first experience things like the fight or flight syndrome, where we are bracing for something dangerous to happen. And anytime you're out there with a new product and you're out there with a new concept, or you're just launching your business, or, showing up in different ways for the first time, all of these things that were built throughout our human existence to protect us tries to step in the way and say, "Oh, whoa, whoa, be careful," right? This is scary. We've not done this before. But if you're regularly going out of your comfort zone, then you'll find yourself more resilient to changes, and that you approach things differently, and you have less fear about how you approach things. And part of that muscle is acceptance, saying, I'm not going to be perfect in everything that I do. I'm going to give allowance to learning. Like, I don't need to please everybody. I need to just experience it. Because one, you're never going to make everybody happy. So just let go of that. If that's your first big thing that pops in your head, like, oh no, what if I disappoint so and so? Or what if people get mad at this? Whatever. That's not your business, right? I like this quote, and I can't remember where I got it from, but I think it was said something like, "What other people think of me is none of my business." And in some cases, that's very true, because I can't stop you from thinking one way. You're allowed your thoughts, and it's not right of me to try to change your thinking. I can learn more about why you think in certain ways, and maybe there's things that I can do to bridge both of our perspectives, but it's not my responsibility to change someone's mind, right? And I don't like mental tactics that some people use to really push and sway somebody to buy a product. That kind of like mental game, right? I don't appreciate any of that. I would rather people be authentic, and if it's an attractive thing to me, right? And if I decide I want to spend money on that, then that's on my own initiative. And I always feel empowered when somebody else feels empowered about what they're doing, what they're selling, without the need of putting me down, etc. So sometimes people spin off in the other direction. They're not very secure with what they're doing, and they try to press it, and they act very aggressive because deep down inside they have self-doubt and imposter syndrome. So sometimes it can be like being shy, or for some people it's being aggressive. So part of your own self-discovery as a business owner, as a professional, as somebody who's out there serving people in many ways, you got to feel good in your own skin, and you got to be able to handle rejection, and you got to be able to keep moving past any obstacle, right? So thinking to yourself in positive ways, listening to great things, reading good books like this, um, and, just getting good, like minded people. I always say perfectionism is not real, being perfect is not real, and to fail amongst people who love you, right? That's the best thing we can do moving through this world, and especially when we're trying to accomplish our goals. So thanks for bringing that up. All right, next post here. Should first time business owners invest in marketing strategies or tools? Yes. Right away, yes. um, I think sometimes, unless you are a marketer, you need other people in your corner who are experienced and can give you that bit of heads up, leg up. It's like building a team. So part of the what you have to build as any kind of business owner is your suite of tools and your team, right? Tools could be what you need to have in operational ways, but if there's a marketing tool, I would say your website's definitely a marketing tool, but there's ways that you can now navigate without having to spend a lot of money on a website. There are things that people are using these days to just get people into other platforms that they host. So let's say you're big on YouTube, you can have a link tree or something very simple. You can even make websites from Canva. So you're combining one tool to create your branding, but then you're also hosting information and it starts as a site as well. I know Casey has built different type of things on Canva, and if you are looking at that as an investment, well, that investment stretches out in so many fun ways, right? So think about ways that you can maximize your investment. So if it's a marketing strategy, maybe you just need a one off because you're trying to be conscious about the money you're spending and then see if that marketing strategy works. Maybe you can go to YouTube University, like a lot of people do, and really stay as focused as you can in implementing certain things. Maybe you're investing in AI, and that's going to help you. I'm totally cool with that because I think there's ways that we can then get into more nuanced things. So if you're just asking a lot of general questions, maybe getting a general outline for a marketing plan using AI, fantastic. But remember, the next step is the implementation. So really think about how that's going to be best done. If you don't have time to do it, outsourcing is fantastic. Go through different people first just to see if you're a right fit and just be aware of that. You're going to make that investment if that's what you need and have the right capital to support that. Awesome. Awesome. All right. So we have, what time are we at? Oh, okay. We have about 19 minutes. So if you have any questions out there, just thoughts that you're thinking about, maybe there's a tip you want to share. And even if it's after the fact and you're seeing this live and you're watching it and you have something to share, I would love to read it. So feel free to add it in the comments. Okay. So Casey posted the next one. And I hope these are great things, thought provoking points that I'm putting together for you. Again, I don't know everything. This is just all from my perspective. My goal is to share as much as possible, but also if there's like things that I hadn't thought about in a while, it's kind of fun to answer these again. So yeah, so thank you, Casey, for being so helpful. Um, in regards to all of this. And who knows, I might turn it into a podcast. So later, later you might be hearing me on a podcast saying some of these things. And I'll thank you guys for being involved in that. Um, so, but you know what, Casey, I'm going to pause your question. I haven't even read it yet. I see that Lisa posted something. So let me go to Lisa real quick. Ooh, how to get AI to work your sales funnel. I'm not sure if that's a lead in, Lisa, if you had one, or if you're asking the question, but let's pretend you're asking the question. You might just be, how do you get AI to work your sales funnel? So, a sales funnel, I depending on what platform you're using, you got to think about the way it's coordinated. So, one, maybe you can ask AI to create a map of the funnel itself so that you can visually see where things are connecting. Give it some prompts like, I need this to work in 5 days, or maybe you have a longer, um, you know, kind of plan for that, however you need to prompt it. Now, sometimes AI is just pulling a bunch of information from other things. So, this is where that idea versus implementation may come into play. But in the pieces involved in the sales funnel, so let's say you're conceptualizing it to build that kind of framework. Then within the steps in the framework, narrow down with AI and say, okay, in the final step, what are some great points that I can mention on the final sales page for this type of audience? So the more you can drill down to mentioning what you need from the AI response, it's going to be a whole lot more finessed for what you're needing. Because in the beginning, AI can be this very expansive yet loose answer. And remember, in your own niches and in the way you market, you want to be very specific to the crowd that you're trying to appeal to. So maybe you have trouble trying to like keep yourself from overthinking. AI can definitely help hone down like how that sentence structure should be. What kind of order should you be asking certain questions. So you have to kind of do a back and forth. I look at my AI right now as not an autonomous thing where it's going to really do everything for me. I think it more of like a teammate where we're kind of going back and forth. So there's still a back and forth. And what I love about AI, and I don't feel like I'm bothering it at 3 o'clock in the morning. So if I'm trying to brainstorm something and I'm trying to design something and it's keeping me awake, I wouldn't want to stress out my flesh and blood assistant by having these like crazy thoughts that I need to kind of put together. So AI does give me that outlet so that I can first like think it through, maybe maneuver it, etc. So sales funnels themselves can be very long or short. Maybe in the funnel, there's some messaging that needs to happen in an email type of sequence. So AI is definitely going to be a fun tool in order to build some of that type of thing, but test it with a real life human, right? So say, hey, check this out. If you were to progress from this step to this step to this step, do you like how that feels? Like, what do you see? Or what if you missed this one email and now you're reading this? Does it still come to life for you? So, only a human with people, people holding on to their wallets can really answer that question. I think too, you could use AI in certain ways where it can trigger something. So you can create different triggers now in Notion. Like there's ways to incorporate AI into their technology on that platform. Or if you're adding something to a spreadsheet, then you can then maneuver it to answer in a certain way, which leads into your next question, Lisa. Can you automate your funnel with AI? Again, it depends on the funnel itself, whether it's just an email funnel or whether it's like if you're building something on a platform that has many steps. I know some people use like things like Kajabi. Some people will use things like um, lead pages and etc. You have to look to see one, do they have AI in their roadmap? Because you wouldn't want to invest in one AI that may not plug into the API, which is the back end of that platform. Maybe in the platform's roadmap, they are already incorporating those things, and you just have to be kind of patient so that you're not having to do all these other workarounds. There are some automations that have been there in the market through Zapier, and I think that stuff is getting cleaner and better. Like I mentioned, Notion has some things that you can even design pages in Notion as well, and that could be done through their AI. Now, some things are still and you might see it in some platforms where it's saying it's still a beta. So AI is getting there to be more autonomous. I think right now you still have to make sure that you're following along with what it's doing and how you're creating those connections. There's not one that I've seen yet that's just kind of like out of the box, right? Even in app design, you can still use AI in apps, but it's still giving you a ton of code, and you still got to figure out whether it's compatible with like an app store, right? So there's things that's happening and there's things that's going to get easier and easier where maybe you could just select a few things and it'll build out the framework and make those automations happen. But as of right now, again, depending on the platform that you're on, you have to still design some couple of nuanced things, but just like automation and AI coming together, once you've done one and you've tested it through from point A to point Z, then you don't have to do it again. That's the magic of these types of setups. So if you call it an automation or whether you call it like an AI functionality within the automation, it's good to go ahead and start building that because things get better and more nuanced, you still got to feed whatever that content is to the AI, right? Because you're trying to make it very nuanced to what you offer and the way you do business and how your brand functions versus like something generic. So if you were thinking about an AI chatbot to help move people into a funnel, then you would still have to make sure that all that content is ready to go and ready to be transferred over. So you could start making like different talking points, quote Q and A's just like this, maybe very specified to what you do. Build that content, make it live on some kind of PDF document. I see a lot of these platforms they're using PDFs for you to turn it into something else. So I mentioned Speechmatics last time, and that's a PDF upload. If you want to train your AI clone help desk person on HeyGen, that's a PDF upload, right? Or a copy paste. So there's still that body of work that you need to program into the AI to make it nuanced to you, because you wouldn't want your sales funnel to just be generic and like 100 other people have the same generic funnel, right? Like no one wants that. And it's almost like you can't stand out from the crowd. Like once everybody starts using a shortcut, is it really still a shortcut? I don't know. So think about that. So just different nuances. The best thing to do right now for any business, documentation, documentation, documentation. You can use AI to help you with your documentation. So thank you for that one. Back to what Casey posted. Is having a strong network crucial for success as an entrepreneur? If so, what steps can we take to build a network if we currently have no connections? Okay. One, unless you're really um of kind of hiding from people, you have connections, right? There's people that you see in your community. Ask around. There might be family members who are in business, and start there, right? And you got to kind of warm up into showing up. Having a strong network is crucial. Part of what you do in like progression tracking, let's say you have a funnel that Lisa was mentioning, you need a database, a CRM, a client retention management system, or a client relationship management system, excuse me, to track how those connections are working. Because it's so easy to get lost in the time frame that it takes to build connections, meaning it takes work and there's time that you have to carve out in order to nurture an audience, nurture those connections. Almost like if you think about in-person networking, I can't just go to a networking meeting once and expect that people are really going to understand what I do and appreciate my presence. I have to make a commitment, find the right type of group to be in, and show up. Part of us showing up consistently is a good way to build that network. So you may start with zero connections, especially a new profile, etc. Think about your LinkedIn, etc. I think if you ask to connect with people in a good way, then why not? They can say no, or they might just say yes. So that might be an easy way to grow a few connections already. And then say, why am I making these connections? Because being purposeful is what makes things strong. Or you could just be busy for no reason. I meet with some people sometimes and they have a huge mailing list, but they haven't monetized it. Or they have a huge following on social media, but no money is coming from that because it's not intentional. Maybe it was just for what we call vanity metrics. So be careful of just having a huge this and that numbers wise when you're not fully utilizing it. I would rather just like, most of us get to that conclusion that I don't need hundreds of friends. I really need like people that I can connect with. And I know who's going to really appreciate the energy that I put out. So, same thing. Don't try to compare yourself with other people in your market. If you're just starting out, totally understandable to have a smaller following and smaller connections. And I would rather build connections in a stronger foundational organic way than trying to purchase my way into some connections that some people do because they are boosting something and just having people like something and then they change content right away. So maybe they have 3,000 following and some of them are just bots and then they're not monetizable. So we got to think about like, what are we doing to build the proper connections? Maybe there's channel partners, people who help put your brand out there, and in turn, you put their brand out there. That is always fantastic. And that's strategic. Maybe you're a part of a group, like join your local chamber. I'm a big advocate of that. And if you are in my local area, I'm serving on the board of the York County Chamber of Commerce. We always love and welcome anyone new to the circle. I will personally introduce you to people that I know and maybe help you build some of those connections. And then look in the comment stream. So, those who come into these things and really are engaged, those are the same people that you'll find very strong in their own communities as well. So, I'm sure that if you look at what Lisa's doing, what Islam's doing, and other people who've been in some of our other previous live streams, they are very connected, and they will also be, just those types of people that encourages others. And I want you to connect in a more deepened sense with that, right? So that maybe there's people that you find that are willing to introduce you, who's willing to kind of share a bit of their connections to get you to the place where you need to go. So I'm all about helping each other, like, build one another up. There's so much things that we could do in this world. We're not limited. We are going to use our connections to really help us build that stronger foundation for success. And with that said, I'll go ahead and start wrapping up. I do appreciate those who've been here. So, just a couple of reminders. I am hosting an AI productivity. So, some of the things that we touched on today, hopefully, I can go into more depth for you all in the workshop. This will be more, what do we call it? Not lagging because it's on Zoom. So make sure you register so we can send you the Zoom link. Also, if you're looking to refine your business strategies, ask me about Refined Strategic Blueprint. And then here's the link for that free download. And last thing is the DC Mastermind. So if you want to hang out in Washington, DC, and you have that date available, it's actually 2 dates, meaning February 28th is the last of the month, and we go right into March 1st. So there's no other dates in between those two. It's a Friday and a Saturday. So if you are wanting to bring our brains together and have some fun, that's what it's about. And so until next time, everyone, my name is Marilen Crump, hashtag expert dreamcatcher. I'm a business developer and marketing strategist, and I'm here to just help in any way I can. So here's to your success, and hopefully I'll see you all again very soon. Thanks so much for everything, and have a fun rest of your evening and for, your week to come. So bye for now. Thanks, everybody.